The morning had started with the crisp scent of paper and printer ink. A good sign. You clutch your neatly labeled USB like it was a golden ticket, balancing your note cards. In the other hand, you had spent days perfecting your presentation for Miss Joy's advanced media class, animations, graphs, citations, everything down to the transitional slide music. Add this in the bag. Good luck. June, your seatmate and occasional partner in crime, whispered as she passed you outside room 3B. You smiled. I don't need luck. I need the projector not to glitch. She grinned and walked in. You paused at the door, inhaled, and stepped in like a soldier ready for battle. Inside the classroom burst with pre presentation energy. Laptops clicked, whispered panic filled the air. Miss Choi stood by her desk, sipping coffee like she enjoyed watching her students squirm under pressure. And then your eyes fell on him, Jungkook John, leaning against the windowsill like he owned the damn sun. His white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, school tie lazily knotted like he hadn't bothered with effort today or any day. His thick lashes hid eyes that darted across the room until they landed on you. He smirked, you scowled. You weren't always enemies, but things turned icy when you exposed his fake attendance trick last semester. He was skipping classes and forging sign ins with someone else's ID number. When the school cracked down, Jungkook was suspended from a couple of games and lost his MVP ranking for a month. And he never forgave you. You have always been that student, the one who actually reads the project, color coded notes, and sometimes stays back just to adjust the projector setting for the teacher. Top of the class, student council member, and unofficial overachiever, which is exactly why people like John Jungkook hated you. Next up, YN. Miss Joy announced, clicking her pen. Please load your file while I mark Mina's presentation. You nodded, walking to the front. You plugged in your USB and waited. And that's when the screen flashed red error. File corrupted, unreadable format. Blinked and tried again. Again error. What? You whispered, clicking frantically. The entire folder was renamed, but now every slide was either blank or full of glitching boxes and overlapping texts. This isn't my file, you said quickly, your voice higher than usual. It was working last night, Miss Joy. You have 5 minutes, Wine, she said without looking up. If it doesn't load, I'll have to mark you zero. I've got 20 students to go through. Your fingers trembled as you tried another folder. Nothing, blank slides, a few random images that didn't belong, and then laughter, low, muffled, almost like someone was trying not to laugh. You turn around, Jungkook sat lazily in the back row, arms folded. He caught your eye and didn't even flinch. Instead, he slowly tilted his head to the side, lifted a brow, and let a tiny smirk play on his lips. It hit you like a punch to the gut. No, he didn't. Right next to him, Mina was practically glowing with nerves and hope. She gave you an apologetic smile, one that made your blood boil. She knew. You looked back at the screen, 5 seconds left. You could feel everyone staring, waiting to see the perfectionist crash and burn. I'll just present without slides. You offered weakly, without visuals. Miss Joy raised a brow. You know it affects grading. You're supposed to demonstrate media use. I know, you said, swallowing, but I memorized everything. You tried, you did. You stood there and gave the presentation you had worked on for weeks, but without your slides, your rhythm collapsed. The class looked bored. Some whispered. Jungkook, he didn't laugh, but he didn't look guilty either. He looked calm and pleased. You sat down feeling like ground had cracked open under your feet. Then Meena stood up. She presented the same topic, similar structure. Her slides worked. She had charts, even used the same quote you had planned to end with. You blinked in disbelief. She had seen your notes. Your stomach dropped when Miss Choi clapped and said, "Huge improvement, Meena. I'm impressed." The class actually applauded. You didn't. You stared down at your hands, trembling fists clenched in your lap. Later that evening, you sat on the couch, fingers buried in the hem of your school skirt, the USB still clutched in your hand when the front door slammed. "Ryan," your father called sternly, "come here." You already knew what was coming. "Why did Miss Choi message me about your failing grade?" He barked, standing over the dining table where your midterm grades were stacked. "It wasn't my fault," you whispered. "You didn't prepare." "I did. My file got—" "Excuses, Ryan." His voice thundered. "You think this is acceptable? After everything we invest in your education, after all your late nights pretending to work?" "I didn't pretend." "Then how did you fail?" He snapped. Tears blurred your eyes. "Someone sabotaged me." "Sabotaged?" He scoffed. "This isn't a spy movie. It's a high school." You wanted to scream, but you didn't. You just turned away and went to your room, slamming the door behind you. Meanwhile, at Jungkook's place, he leaned against his desk, lazily tossing a stress ball into the air as Mina's voice buzzed through the laptop speaker. "You're a lifesaver, Kook. I got an A, first time ever." She beamed, practically bouncing in her seat on the video call. Jungkook gave her a half smile, the ball still bouncing off his palm. "Yeah. You okay?" she asked, noticing his silence. "I'm fine," he replied quickly. But his fingers hesitated over the mouse. With a click, he opened a file on his desktop. He stared at it for a long second before minimizing it. Mina kept talking. "Honestly, if you hadn't helped me, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, she has always been the teacher's favorite. I never stood a chance." Jungkook's eyes flicked to the screen sharp. "Wait." He stood up a little straighter. "Mina, you copied Ryan's presentation, didn't you?" Her eyes widened on the screen. What?" "You didn't you?" he asked again, his tone now colder. Mina blinked, awkwardly adjusting her hair. No, I didn't. Why would you even think that?" Her voice shrinked. "Don't lie to me," he said sharply, stepping away from the desk. "I ruined her work thinking I was just messing up a file, not knowing you stole her damn content." Mina stood up from her bed, her voice higher. "Why are you being like this, Jungkook? Come on, it's Ryan. Don't forget what she did to you last time. That stupid attendance report. You got benched for a month because of her. This was nothing compared to that." Jungkook's jaw tightened. He ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "No, that was different. What I did today, that was wrong, Mina. I sabotaged her. And you?" He looked away, shaking his head. "You let me take the blame while you copied her work." She stepped closer to the screen, voice softer now. "You are feeling bad over her?" He turned, his eyes distant. "It was just a presentation, but I saw her face when it crashed, like her whole world fell apart." His voice dropped. "And now I keep thinking about it." Mina frowned, crossing her arms. "You're seriously going to feel guilty for her after everything she did?" Jungkook didn't respond. He just stepped away from the screen and murmured, "Mina, I want to be alone right now. You can go." "Jungkook, please," he said without looking back. The screen went black as he ended the call, leaving behind only silence and the minimized file still sitting on his desktop, unopened but not forgotten. The next morning, Jungkook walked into the school gates a little earlier than usual, something even his friends would have found suspicious. He kept scanning the campus, not sure who he was hoping to find, until he spotted you. You were standing near the curb where your father's car was parked. The morning air was quiet but not enough to drown out the harshness of your father's voice. Your head was lowered, lips pressed tightly together, knuckles white around the strap of your bag as you tried not to cry in public. Jungkook froze in place, watching, guilt creeping up like smoke under his skin. Your father got into the car and drove off, leaving you standing there, eyes glossy but jaw set. You turn on your heels, straightening your shoulder, and that's when your eyes met his, just for a second. But instead of the usual snappy glare or witty insult, you looked right past him and walked inside. No words, no reaction, and somehow that silence punched harder than anything you could have said. The bell rang during break. Jungkook wandered out to the courtyard, finding you exactly where he suspected you would be, on the stone bench under the tree, where you always sat when you needed a break from people. He approached slowly. Vian, he said, voice tentative. You didn't look up. Can we talk? Still no answer. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, I know you probably hate me. Probably? You snapped, finally looking at him. Your eyes weren't watery now, they were sharp. You think probably covers what you did? Okay, I deserve that, he admitted quickly, but nothing, Jungkook. You stood up, eyes blazing. You ruined my presentation. You know how important it was, and you didn't just mess up my file. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I didn't know Meena copied you. It doesn't matter. You cut him off, voice cracking, because I never expected anything better from you. He flinched visibly. Guys like you continued bitterly, think everything is a joke. You'll never understand how it feels to work so hard for something and then have it crushed just for someone else's convenience. You pushed past him before he could even speak. He turned slowly, watching as a figure disappeared back inside the building. Back in the classroom, you walked through the door just as Mina stood at her seat, clearly about to come over, but when she caught your eyes, she looked down immediately, unable to meet your gaze. You didn't stop walking, not for her. You brushed past her shoulder without a word, heading straight for your desk. The class hadn't even started, but it already felt like the longest day of your life. And Jungkook, he sat at the back, head down, your words repeating in his head louder than any lesson the teacher could give. You sat rigid at your desk, your notebook open but untouched, words blurred on the whiteboard as the teacher spoke, but none of it reached your ears. You were numb, tired from the crying, tired from pretending to be okay. Jungkook's eyes were just on you. He was still thinking about your face when your father was scolding you. Mina looked at him and she knew Jungkook was thinking something that wasn't going to end well for her. He didn't even speak to her since the morning. And then just as the teacher was about to begin the new lesson, Jungkook stood up. The room stilled. Everyone looked at him. He didn't glance at you. Miss Choi, he said, his voice steady, too steady for someone who had always lived for jokes and laziness. Before you start, I need to say something. The teacher paused, surprised. Yes, Jungkook? He took a deep breath. I was the one who messed with Vian's presentation yesterday, on purpose. A sharp silence sliced through the air. You turned slowly, stunned, your heart dropped. What? Someone whispered behind you. Jungkook's eyes were glued to the floor now. I replaced her file with a corrupted one right before class. I didn't know Minna had copied her slides too. I thought I was just helping her get a better grade, but it was wrong, all of it. Wyan didn't deserve that. Your eyes widened. You weren't expecting him to admit his mistake. The teacher's brows furrowed, then her eyes shifted to Mina. Is that true, Mina? Mina's face had gone pale. She looked around, eyes darting nervously as every pair of eyes fell on her. I didn't copy it entirely. That's enough, the teacher cut in sharply. Both of you to the staff office now. Mina's chair scraped loudly as she stood, still looking at Jungkook like she couldn't believe what he had done. He said you had it under control. She muttered bitterly under her breath as she passed him. I did. He replied calmly, still not meeting her eyes, until I realized I'm not okay with hurting someone just because I was mad. The room burst as the two of them left, whispering mouths, trying to make sense of what just happened. You sat frozen, completely still. And for the first time, even though your heart was still bruised, a strange sense of quiet pride settled in. He told the truth. No one had ever done that for you before. Later that day, word spread quickly. Both Jungkook and Mina were suspended from the student council. Mina lost her A, and Jungkook was removed from the upcoming basketball match as disciplinary action. They were both assigned to after-school community duty for a week, and you got a second chance to present. But whether or not you were ready to forgive, that was a whole different story. You thought things would go back to normal after that. You did your makeup presentation, this time without glitching screens or corrupted files, and you nailed it. The teacher smiled, a few students even clapped. But nothing really felt the same, especially not with Jungkook. He didn't talk to you, didn't joke, didn't tease, but somehow he was always there like today. You were gathering your books in the library after school when a low voice broke the quiet. You forgot this. You looked up. Jungkook stood a step away, awkwardly holding out your blue gel pen, the one you thought had vanished earlier in class. You stared at it for a second before slowly reaching out to take it. Your fingers brushed his, but there was no warmth in your eyes. You don't have to do this, you said quietly. Your tone was flat. He swallowed hard. Wine, I'm sorry. The words hung in the air like a confession. You met his gaze, steady and cold. You admitted your mistake. I forgave you. That's it. He looked like he wanted to say more, but you didn't let him. We don't have anything to do with each other now. You finished, voice low and final, and with that you turned and walked away, the sound of your footsteps echoing louder than anything he could have said. Jungkook didn't move, just stood there in the quiet aisle, holding nothing but regret. The next few days were weird, like really weird. You reached your desk one morning and found an extra pack of sticky notes, the exact pastel ones you always used. No note, no name, but you saw Jungkook 2 seats behind, head down, definitely watching from the corner of his eye. Another time you caught him helping the librarian restack books after someone knocked over a cart. Jungkook John, the human slouch, voluntarily doing library labor. It was bizarre. Okay, is he possessed? June, your seatmate, whispered one day as she leaned over. He just offered to carry the whiteboard marker to the teacher's lounge. You shrugged, trying to seem indifferent. Maybe he's just making up for stuff. But part of you was confused too, because boys like Jungkook didn't just change. Later that week, you were grabbing your lunch tray when you accidentally dropped your water bottle. Before you could bend to pick it up, got it. There he was again, Jungkook. Holding your bottle out with that same unreadable expression. Not smug, not smirking, just quiet. You took it, studying him. You don't have to keep doing this. I know, I just want to. You opened your mouth to say something, but nothing came out. For once, he didn't press, just nodded and turned away. And as he walked back to his table, you watched him go, your heart doing something annoying and unfamiliar. You didn't forgive him yet, but for the first time since that presentation, you weren't angry anymore.